kind of update. What are we doing? What's going on? And this is kind of return to that tradition. And so the program material said it was going to be on QuickSearch. It's going to do a lot more than that. I'm not. The real experts are going to do a lot more than that. I'm just here to. I'm here to introduce Molly and Tara, who are going to do the presentation. I do want to make a couple of opening remarks. For those of you who are involved in the library world, you know that we're in the middle of an era, once again, of tremendous change. The world that we play in is remarkably different, even than it was 5 years ago. And you're going to see two of the things that are a result of that change. The first thing is the way our users, students primarily, but faculty too, the way our users receive the world has some very interesting characteristics which we probably didn't recognize or as fast as we should, but which are changing the way we should be looking at the services we provide. And the major part of that change is I want it quick, I want it easy, and I want to get away quick. I get it done and get out of here. Okay? I don't want to sit for a long time learning how to do something. So the profession came up with this idea of a discovery tool, and it means literally that. What do you do when you discover? What's it mean to discover something? Wait, what's it mean to discover? Okay, and when you discover it, what do? You just stop there? Discovery opens up a vista in which you can explore, right? Isn't that what a discovery is? You say, oh, look at this, and then you try to explore it. One of the things that discovery tools are designed to do is to structure things so that you can discover, you can explore. Take a look at what primarily Molly's going to do this morning to see how one way you can approach that. The second thing we're going to talk about is ebooks. Tara's going to spend quite a bit of time on ebooks. There's some very interesting things going on in the state of Virginia in terms of things that VIVA, Virtual Library of Virginia, is piloting or trying. And how can we deliver ebooks to our users and to our libraries in a much more effective and efficient way than we've traditionally applied material? As you know, traditionally what you've had is somebody in every institution who has to sit there and figure out, I'm going to buy this book, buy that book, will this book be used, so on and so forth. Let's look at the pilot that's going on in Virginia in terms of how we acquire library material. So those are two big things that we're going to be talking about today. But in addition, the other reason I'm here is this is Library Service Update. What services come primarily from the system office, but what other things do you want to talk to you about? So there will be time at the end for you to ask questions, and hopefully we can answer them. Thanks.
Thanks, Gene. Good morning. I'm Tara Cassidy, Electronic Services Librarian at the System Office. Thank you all for joining us bright and early.
I'm Molly Channel from John Tyler Community College. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the program that Gene just introduced to us, QuickSearch. QuickSearch.
Just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're trying to train ourselves not to say primo, because primo doesn't mean anything, or it means something different to everyone that hears it. So the product, oh, okay. How's this? Is this a little better? I'm on the mic? Okay. The product, Quicks, is from Ex Libris. The product name is Primo, but we're going to call it QuickSearch at VCCS. So just to make sure you all have seen the interface, it's very different. This looks like nothing else we've purchased, I think. So when I say discovering QuickSearch, does this interface remind you of anything? Maybe Google, sort of. That's intentional. And we're calling it QuickSearch. And what does it do? It's one search for a number of resources. It includes the catalog and a couple other things. And that depends because it's going to be customized to your college. Sorry, I had one point I wanted to make and I'm blanking on it. See if we can just take a look at one of the instances. Okay, no. We're locked into PowerPoint this morning. So it's going to be customized to your college, and John Tyler has done a lot of work on their QuickSearch interface, and Molly did a lot of work on at her campus running focus groups, primarily with faculty and some students. I could not be more pleased to have her here this morning to share her experience introducing QuickSearch to her users.
Thank you so much, Terry. When we first learned that we were getting QuickSearch, we were very excited to learn about the new library tool. But after that initial excitement wore off, we did realize that this was going to drastically change how our user search behavior worked when working with the different resources. So in order to get a better understanding about how our users are going to use this and how they would receive this type of service, we decided to hold some focus groups to ask for their opinion. And really with the focus groups, we wanted to gain feedback from all different types of users. So we approached both students and faculty, but we also approached advanced searchers and beginners, and some of those folks that were primarily catalog searchers versus database searchers. We wanted to know how their search behavior would be affected by combining the two types of resources. The next thing we wanted to gather was specific user experiences. We wanted to know exactly how they were using this and what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, things like that. The group setting really helped out with lively discussion. Having a bunch of people in the room helped open up students that didn't want to articulate or couldn't really verbalize their techniques and any issues and stuff that they had with it. Working with others and being able to bounce ideas off of one another, they were more comfortable and just opened up in the group setting. The group setting also let us know about the perceived usage and how who was going to use this and things like that, who was most attracted to the service. The insight from all of these different things, we were hoping that it would help us to make decisions based on how dominant is this library resource going to be for our library homepage, how are we going to provide access to it and things like that, and also how is this going to affect our instructional materials, how will we handle our bibliographic classes, and when teachers request resource instruction, is this going to be the main resource that we show our students? So after we decided that this was going to work for us, we had to start planning these things. Scheduling was really difficult. You can never match everyone's schedule perfectly. Students have preferences on when they're on campus. So I really thought about who I wanted to attract and when they would be on campus to volunteer for such a program. So you can try to pick preferences, but really work with whatever your resources allow for. Don't be over concerned with trying to fit everyone's schedule because it just won't work. Advertising, though, was hugely important. I couldn't emphasize this enough. You really have to get the word out there for folks. We advertise primarily online because that's where our students get all their information. Facebook, we did weekly updates, posts on the library homepage, posts on our blog. We reached out to the faculty using our intranet page where we get all of our campus information to staff. And we also added it to calendars so people knew that it was an event on campus. The SDD 100 courses, which is for student development for our new students, we reached out to those specific instructors and also the counseling department so they could share with the groups of people that we were trying to reach. I also developed some discipline-targeted materials to reach across more than just the humanities because they are our predominant researchers. I reached out to nursing faculty, business teachers, the sciences. We had some chemistry instructors join us as well. And this was really good to help spread the word. And again, everyone needs research and library resources at some point. So reaching across disciplines definitely helped. And the last thing with advertising is make sure when you advertise, you let people know why you're asking them to come. If you don't tell them why, they don't know what this focus group is on. So I gave them a little bit of homework when I advertised, and I asked them, please, test out the service. Let us know what you think. We're trying to get your feedback on how QuickSearch is working. So after planning and scheduling and everything like that, I actually, had to have some of these things and have people in and talk to them and everything like that. So no two focus groups are the same. So mine, I'm going to give you kind of a general outline how I conducted ours, but of course formatting can change for school or for setup however you want to have it. So the first thing I did when I had them join me was I defined the goals again. I wanted everyone to be completely comfortable about sharing their opinions and sharing in an open forum without any, fear of negative consequences for sharing what they thought. This kind of just set the mood for everything. I wanted it to be very casual and things like that. So that's why I just wanted to let everyone know why I asked them to come.
Were all of your focus groups in person on campus?
Yes. Then after, I explained to them, we did do a demo for those who either needed a refresher to kind of go back over and say, what tools did I see that I liked with it, and what techniques did I use while searching this? And also for those who like to, come and join us but didn't do their homework beforehand. And I wanted them to be able to participate in the discussion, so giving them a short demonstration at least gave them an idea of what QuickSearch did and, the ins and outs. Now, the discussion and the capturing feedback, this is not a linear process. All of this was going on at the same time. So I left it very open. We discussed things as I was demoing. They gave me suggestions on the things that they did in their searches, the different tools that they used, and things like that. So the demo, the discussion, and the capturing feedback, this is all really happening at the same time. So of course, after holding a few of these, I did learn some stuff that I would definitely do differently in my upcoming ones. One is the documentation. It's really hard to participate and help with the discussion and move things along while trying to document everything. If you can have someone in there helping you to document, that would be so helpful. Either that or maybe considering recording the audio so you can play it back to reanalyze and make sure you didn't miss anything. The other thing is don't lead the discussion. You don't want to influence users' opinions. So I tried to start the discussion. I had prepared questions and leads and things like that to ask, but I didn't want to influence how they felt about the search. Next thing is don't give up. Participation takes a lot of time. We had some times where we had very few participants. At our other campus location, she did tell me that at least on one occasion they had a no-show session, so we didn't have anyone. But you're asking people to volunteer for something. It can be hard to get students, especially in busy times this semester. They have other things on their minds to come to a voluntary session. And staff, we know how busy everyone gets. It's hard. So don't give up. Just offer some more sessions. It just may not have been the right day or the time for the group that you're trying to reach. To help recruit folks, you can offer incentives. A lot of the literature I read said, offer your people a reason to come. We had incentives for our SDV 100 students, but they weren't specifically for focus groups. It's something that we offer for all library activities. But, it's something that we would consider offering, refreshments or something like that. Food always helps, bring people in. You got to give them something nice to take away from it. So we did all this work. What did we find out in our focus group? It was great, actually. Overall, we had a really positive reception of QuickSearch from both faculty and students. So all types of users did like the results, and they found there was really great relevant things, and they were happy overall with the service. They really thought that the interface was intuitive, and they liked the different tools and refining options that they had. They felt that it really helped optimize their search and better their results. They really liked the My Account features. They thought that this was a big improvement from the current catalog My Account features. Of course, there's always suggested improvements. The biggest improvement that they asked for was citations. They've grown accustomed to being able to instantly cite. That's something that was available in our catalog, and now they just don't want to go through those few extra clicks to get to a citation. So they asked, where are our citations at? The next thing is the interlibrary loan request. This came up a few times, especially with staff members. When they found items that were not in full text, they asked, can we have this item offered in full text? Or can we have a quick option to request an item so we can have it in full text? And those really were our biggest as far as service improvement suggestions. We always had suggestions as far as appearance things and formatting that may be beyond our capabilities. And of course, when you get those suggestions, we take them down like any other suggestion that someone else gave. Even if we can't do it now, it may be valuable for future reference. So I noted all those things as well. But really, the feedback that we received did help us make decisions. Next semester, we're going to be holding workshops to help introduce users to QuickSearch. We're also going to be adding tutorials to our library homepage to help our virtual users use QuickSearch. And all of our information literacy classes will include this service as well. So we're really excited about this, and we feel that focus groups were a great way to get an idea of what our population felt about different services and things like that. And we may be continuing to use these for different services in the future. So if anyone has any questions about how we actually conducted these things or the specifics or the literature that I used to help design them, please let me know. I can forward you any of the information that I had when conducting them. That's all I had as far as our focus group. Pass this back on the chair.
Thank you, Molly. Can you comment briefly about how your Tyler QuickSearch is custom to your users? It includes only your library catalog and perhaps some other subscriptions that Tyler is subscribed to?
Yes. We chose to add a few of the databases that we knew were most commonly used by Tyler researchers. We added, I think we have JSTOR. We did choose to add Academic Search Complete, which is a large database, and we did notice that it slowed down the loading times just a little bit. But our users did tell us that they wanted to see all of our resources there. They didn't want to have to search, QuickSearch and then turn around and search Academic Search Complete because they felt like they missed a lot of things by doing that. So we did customize it to that, and we've also we're changing our homepage a little bit to match. For example, we don't have a Twitter feed for the library, so we're matching that for Facebook because we do Facebook updates from the library and things like that. So we have customized it to fit our needs at John Tyler.
Thank you. And the point that I was blanking on earlier, we are set to upgrade this product to the next version, which will be version 4, later this month. And if you want to see an example of it, it won't be a tremendous interface change. It will be an improvement. And if you'd like to see what that looks like, the VCU library website has version 4 of this Primo product live. And you can actually use it to search their catalog and see how the facets will look a little bit different in the result view. It's also going to be handier when it comes to mobile access. And another point on that, if you're at all involved in or following the conversation about the Blackboard mobile app development project, you're going to see the Primo catalog instance in the library portion of that app. Comment? Okay, thanks again, Mom. And now we're going to change gears, and I'd like to share a multi-part update on ebooks. Does everyone know what Viva is? That little logo in the bottom right corner, the Virtual Library of Virginia. And just in case you haven't heard of it, Viva is the consortium of the nonprofit academic libraries within the Commonwealth of Virginia. Members include all of Virginia's state-assisted colleges and universities, as well as 34 private nonprofit institutions, as well as the Library of Virginia. And we abbreviate that as Viva, so it's fun to say. And all of the products and subscriptions that I'm going to talk about are through our membership, the VCCS membership in Viva. Okay. So you notice I've qualified that. These are STEM-H ebooks. That's scientific, technical, engineering, mathematics, and health sciences content. So that's very specific. Viva received special funding from the General Assembly for the 2012 biennium for ebooks in STEM areas. And I'm happy to report that this spring, Viva finalized 2 contracts, one with Springer and a second with Elsevier, to provide 2 new ebook packages in these content areas. Now, by purchasing these collections together, Viva members paid less than 1/3 of the normal purchase price and now have the option to save even more money if they choose to cancel print orders for titles included in these collections. And that's a local decision, but the option is yours. Again, Viva and all of Viva's members, we're very grateful to Governor McDonald, Secretary Cornash, Chev, and the General Assembly for making this possible. And another thank you to the Viva Academic eBooks RFI Subcommittee, and that's a mouthful. Who is this group? Basically, as soon as funding was approved by the General Assembly, Viva convened a subcommittee to draft an RFI, a request for information document, and then to evaluate a number of proposals that we received in response to these academic ebook packages. We had several lofty goals, and I think you'll see that we met them. I'm very pleased with the outcome. A couple things we wanted to do. Again, we wanted to identify quality STEM-H ebook packages that were competitively priced, of course. We're going to shop. We want to get the most for our money. Packages that do not employ restricted DRM, which we've all encountered, digital rights management, basically that mechanism that tells the user no when they click on the thing they want. Well, we don't want to buy that. So that's not what we were shopping for. We also definitely wanted collections that were uniformly available for unlimited simultaneous use. What does that mean? If we buy a package of 100 STEM-H titles, we want all 100 of those titles to be licensed the same way, meaning everyone, everywhere can click on the same book at the same time and get in. That's what we're looking for, and I think you'll agree that's a change. So that's what we shopped for, that's what we found. We also needed these providers, these content packages rather, to support interlibrary loans, or what's the point, you know? So yes, both of these packages fit those descriptions. We couldn't be more pleased. So okay, who gets what? As a community college, you're a Viva member, so you have full access to all this great stuff. Excuse me. The Springer 2013 collections will have over 2,000 titles. Elsevier will be a little bit smaller. End of the year, you'll end up with about 700 in that collection. Springer has already released about 1,600. Elsevier, we have 57. Again, these are all 2013 imprints, and it's only April, so the rest of the collections will be forthcoming, and you'll just see them in the catalog as they become available. And again, I just want to reiterate. Thank you. I may have turned that off, sorry. So, unlike some of our other shared ebook collections that shall remain nameless, these collections are licensed for unlimited concurrent use. Everybody all the time, clicking on the same book. That's great. And we want to see more like this. And again, you might be thinking, oh, well, those are textbooks, right? No, I'm not going to refer to these books as textbooks with a capital T. This project was not designed to solve, nor can it solve, the enormous and complicated issue of high textbook costs. That said, Viva chose products and negotiated terms to ensure that these two publisher packages will allow the use of these ebooks for classes, including in-course packs. They're very generously licensed. So these ebooks can certainly be used to support classes and should be very useful in many upper division courses. And here's a brief summary, and you can of course access this from the conference website. You've got a link to the Springer title list. And you can think of the Springer 2013 collection as being in 4 subject areas: behavioral, biomedical, life science, computer science, earth and environmental science. And we're pretty happy with that. One thing I do want to highlight, and I'm not aware of any of our other resources that offer this kind of service, is the Springer My Copy option. Is anyone familiar with this? Well, what does this option do? It basically gives any of our users the option to purchase a personal printed softcover copy of any of these ebooks for their personal use. Oh, that sounds good. How much is it? Well, it's always $24.95, and that includes shipping. That sounds pretty good. I will say I know these printed copies are going to be grayscale. They're not going to be full color, and they're currently available. We have some Springer imprints from 2005. This service is in place for the 2005 collection, but we purchased the 2013 collection, and that service will be forthcoming because this content is brand new, and they're just putting that service in place. So you're not going to, if you go into the catalog right now and find a Springer 2013 ebook, you're not going to see the My Copy option yet, but it's forthcoming. I made certain to ask that question last week because I wasn't seeing it. So that's something to look forward to. And a brief summary of the Elsevier package, which just in Springer comes in 4 collections. Let's think of Elsevier as one collection called Science Direct, and that's going to be a little bit smaller, and that's going to focus on science, technology, and the health sciences disciplines. And again, you've got the title list, so you can see what we will have by the end of the year. Great. That's part 1. That's what we have. That's what is available today and throughout the rest of the year. And I'm going to switch gears, and I'm calling this part 2, the Viva Demand-Driven Acquisition, or DDA, pilot. There are lots of acronyms floating around, and we decided we'd go with DDA to describe this project. So again, this is a Viva initiative in partnership with the vendor EBL, and that stands for eBook Library. And I believe that's a new vendor for me, for shared resources. So it's been interesting to get to know them. Okay, I say demand-driven acquisitions, or DDA, and you say, what? What is DDA? It's an emerging model in which libraries provide access to a pre-selected pool of content, ebooks in this case, that has the potential to be used based on who our users are, what subjects they are interested in. And the library only pays for on-demand user access. No one will ever be locked out. It mimics that unlimited concurrent access model, but it's not the same. Basically, in this case, a high-demand ebook, meaning something lots of users repeatedly access over time, it's in high demand, triggers itself to be purchased and added to the library's regular collection. In this way, the DDA model is cost-effective. We don't spend any money until we actually have to, because our users told us, hey, you have to buy this one. It provides access to titles when needed, as needed, and it takes a fair amount of guesswork out of library acquisitions and collections development. And again, you see the EBL logo in the bottom right. You're seeing more from them as this pilot proceeds. So I'm calling it a pilot project. It is funded and expected to last for 12 months. I mentioned a pre-selected pool. Again, this pilot will focus on STEM-H content. So our pre-selected pool is, I think, about, I'm going to go with roughly 5,000 titles for our pool. The information is forthcoming. We don't have the final answer on that yet. The DDA pilot is exclusively Viva funded. I know that was a question I kept getting from staff at several colleges, what's this? Oh, I don't know if we can participate in this. I don't think we have anything in the budget for this. Well, that's fine. You're all going to get to participate, and you won't get a bill, and Jean won't get a bill either. It's exclusively Viva funded. So in summary, it will allow all VCCS patrons access to several thousand ebook titles via the Tyler Library Catalog, the New River Library Catalog, wherever they happen to be at their home library, and Viva pays only for titles that they actually use, should they be able to find them. Just a few more details about that pre-selected pool of titles. I mentioned it would be, we hope that it will be roughly 5,000 titles just in the catalog, innocently waiting for someone to come by and express interest. I think the qualifier for this group is the content has to have already been published. There'll be no forthcoming or brand new titles after the pilot is put into place. So the titles have to have already been published, and of course they were selected by a cross-section of Viva members based on programs available statewide. So you say, okay, that sounds good. When a user is in the catalog and happens to click on one of these pilot titles, what actually happens? Well, to them, nothing happens. They just go there and start using the content, just as they would. I think one qualifier, all users are going to have to log in. It is a pilot project, and we are collecting data. We want to see users' patterns at different institutions, who's doing what. Not personally identifiable information, but in order to access this particular pool of content, you will be prompted to log in whether you are on or off campus. So that's a change. But I do want to stress EBL does not receive identifying information about individual users from our system. There's a note here. Again, it mimics unlimited concurrent access, and that this pool content doesn't come with a limit number of users for simultaneous access. If I move from the catalog over to EBL, so one of these pre-selected books, as a user, EBL allows me 5 minutes to browse the content. I can look, I can use the index, I can search. The whole book is searchable. I can search and start reading a section. That's fine. I have 5 minutes. What happens after 5 minutes? Or if within that 5-minute period I start printing or trying to download and save a chapter, which I can do all these things, that triggers a checkout, which in this model is referred to as a short-term loan, or STL. But for our purposes, we just think of it as, oh, I'm going to check out a book from the EBL collection. You'll see that abbreviation again. Viva is publishing a DDA implementation guide, and you'll see STL used liberally in that guide. So a note about short-term loans in this model, or for our purposes, checkout. When that happens, the checkout incurs a fraction of the cost because it's paid by Viva, not the institution where the user is located. Checkouts are uniformly 7 days in this model. And you, as a single user, can have up to 25 short-term loans or checkouts in a 24-hour period. And I thought, let me check that. Yes, that's correct. You can use quite a bit of this content. And just a word about the cost. So we are spending, Viva rather, is spending money. How is this going to work? And I was just asking and thought maybe you'd be curious about it too. A short-term loan cost is, of course, going to be determined by the publisher, not EBL. And it's hit or miss. It's going to be between 5 and 20% of the cost of that title. So, of course, there's a sliding scale depending on the content, but Viva is going to pay some percentage to allow that short-term loan to take place. And of course, that's determined on a title-by-title basis, EBL working with the publisher. And we hope to have a list of the participating publishers shortly. So yeah, Viva and EBL, on the admin side, are just going to count the short-term loans to determine what students are actually using, see if we can see any patterns. And a note there, any individual that exceeds that 25 checkouts in 24 hours, of course, they're going to trigger the vendor to come in and mediate access because that's not the intention here. So yes, there is a control built into the system. Just a few notes about short-term loans. Okay, well, why do I want to check it out? What's a short-term loan going to allow the user to do? Well, they have access to that content for 7 days. They can go back to the EBL site and read it. They can download it to their PC, their portable device. They can read it offline. They have 7 days. They can email up to 5% of the total content, and that's a mechanism from within the interface. They can print out up to 20% of the book. They can download and save chapters or sections in a PDF format. Easy. Or they can download the whole thing, and if they want it as a PDF, they can have that. If they want it as an EPUB, they can have that format. Any device that supports ADE, Adobe Digital Edition, or the Bluefire Reader app, and that app implies support for Apple devices, iPad, iPhone, Android devices, as well as the Kindle Fire. A nice range of usability options for our offline users. Okay, when do we actually buy anything? Well, we may or may not, and that's why we're calling it a pilot project. Enough checkouts for the same ebook from the DDA pool, these titles that we've just placed in the catalog for users to happen upon, will trigger Viva to purchase 1 copy of the ebook. Okay? So when I say enough, how many is enough? Viva did look at this in depth, working with the vendor, came up with a number. I believe the trigger for this pilot, Viva-wide, will be 10. So 10 short-term loans, fine. The vendor just says, okay, count to 10. On the 11th short-term loan, the purchase is triggered. What does that mean? Viva buys 1 copy of that particular title that's starting to generate high use. And what does that mean? Rather than that big pool of 5,000 titles, you're now creating a smaller owned title collection. And the rules are going to change a little bit, but owned titles become available to all Viva users. And I think it's going to be a one-time cost. I'm always hesitant to say how much. Of course, it's title by title, but some multiplier of list price. And I think for Viva, it's an average of roughly 4 times list price for 1 copy that's available statewide for all members. Okay, so what about these owned titles that will be held in common? The rules change a little bit. Coming out of that big pool, you're now you're a Viva ebook at EBL, and you come with an allowance. Well, we get an allowance, rather. Each title comes with a generous annual STL, or checkout allowance. So if it's annual, how is that measured? From the date of purchase. So if the pool title is purchased today, 12 months from now, my allowance is refilled. What's my allowance, you ask? I think for the Viva model, I believe we've settled that owned titles will allow up to 180 unique checkouts annually. And again, that's the 7-day checkout model. That will not change. And also, it's worth noting that instead of the 5-minute browse period, For an owned book, users get 10 minutes to go in and use the content before triggering that prompt to check out the content. And again, if they try to download or print, it'll also trigger the checkout, but they can browse for 10 minutes instead of just 5. And you're probably wondering, well, what happens if Viva uses up the finite allowance for a single owned title? We're wondering the same thing too, and that's something that the pilot will help us figure out. I think in talking with the vendor, that just doesn't happen. But you can count on us to disrupt some kind of model and make it happen. The service, EBL, eBook Library, is the service provider and has stated their commitment to Viva. Continuous access will continue. We're not going to block users out. Say, oh, no, you spent all your allowance, you're done. No, even in this case, if we were to use up our allowance, EBL will work with us to provide continued access until the end of the annual period. And the pilot project is going to help us determine how to manage this. Do we buy a second copy of this super high demand ebook, or do we start charging per act? We don't know, and we're going to accumulate data to help us make that decision if that happens. But with owned titles, there are no additional charges. You just have an annual allowance, and users use it up. Okay, so theoretically, at New Horizons 2014, what will we have? We'll have a ton of data, as I've mentioned several times. Viva will do an analysis of the number of checkouts and purchases generated by each school, and this will give us a nice picture of acquisition and use patterns, both Viva-wide and on the institution level. Hopefully, hopefully, we'll have some number of new to us STEM-H ebooks that are held in common, that were purchased based on direct evidence of high demand from our students and users. And I think equally as important, we'll also have a functional model for demand-driven acquisition statewide that individual Viva libraries can look to if you're interested in implementing something like this where you are. I mean, what if STEM-H content isn't a big draw where you are? What if you want to do a pilot to develop some other aspect of your collection? Well, maybe we can have some takeaways and talk about that next year if you want to put something like that in place where you are. Thank you very much. Luckily, we have time for questions.
I just have a question about access. I imagine you would, if you checked out a book because you printed one page or something, how is the best way to get back to that book? Is it through the catalog? I mean, you say you have to log in to the platform. Is that the recommended way? I know there's a platform that you can go to. So you recommend the students to go to the catalog, and they've gone in, they found a book, they printed one page, they now have it for 7 days. Now, is there another way to get there, or do they just go back to that title in the catalog? How do they get back to the book?
They could do that. They would use the link from the catalog record, or they could just download it, the entire book, and save it.
And they just need to be aware that they have just now checked out a book.
Yeah.
Which they may not. Okay. Really quick, I believe the platform, by logging in, will keep track of the books that they viewed. So if they log back in through the platform for a certain period of time, I don't remember what it was, but when they were doing the demonstration, the books that they had previously viewed, so if it's like a week later and they don't remember and they need to cite,
the book, they can log back into the platform and see the books that they've looked at. So if they can't remember the title and can't find it through the catalog, I think that's another option. Am I right about that?
Yes, thank you, Natalie.
Okay.
Natalie was very involved in setting up the Viva training day, so thank you.
Yeah, that's the only reason I knew that. My question was going to be, so a lot of the books, the ebooks through like Springer and Science Direct, they're kind of higher level books,
Yes.
right? I think there's still value in a lot of them, but some of them are a little beyond what community college students would typically use. And so I don't know that this is going to be the case for the DDA program, but I suspect it may be something similar. There will be some stuff that's good for community colleges, but there may be stuff that's just sort of beyond what our students would typically use. So my question is, going forward, is it something that VCCS would consider doing a DDA project that maybe was more focused on sort of the community college side of things?
Well,
Tara, answer that.
Jean knows all about that, but I'll just add one thing. The Viva committee or subcommittee that was formed to choose titles for the pool had a lot of community college participation. So we were very involved in choosing, in pre-selecting STEM-H titles for this DDA pool. So I hope that our users will be finding things that are of use to them.
But it's very clear that this material is it jumped higher. So I think you find even there are chapters in those books that could be very effectively used by faculty in their courses. That's the nice thing about this. We're going to be able to go at this thing at the level. And that's why I think change subject. I got two things to say. To change subject is that's why the session we're planning later in the year, that's the royal week that Tara's working on for later in the year, where we're going to try to do something with LibGuides. That's where I think we've got to come into play. Try to start setting up mechanisms so that our faculty know how to and easily get those resources. Because I had a very, very interesting conversation yesterday afternoon, and I got lots of points from the chancellor as well. One of our faculty in one of our colleges came up to the campus and said, "Oh, I just love that history video stuff that you've acquired. He said, I'm using that in my classes all the time. He said, it's so good. I can click to an active segment in the video, and the students can look at it, and so on and so forth." And the chancellor said, "Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Put the credit for that." So I went to him afterwards. So I heard this. I went to him afterwards. Said, "How many points do I have for this year?" But that's the point. If we can get our faculty to discover this stuff, right, and help them get there, and I think that material. Now, the second thing about it is, Tara did answer it, is if this thing works at the Viva level, okay, is this, for you in the library, is this how we want to start thinking about how we do our acquisitions as a system? Okay, and so in that line with that, in June, I will be doing a presentation first to ASAC, and that's the academic vice president's group, and then to the presidents. And my point's going to be for them to start to think about, would it be more effective for us to do what Viva's doing, is to start to consolidate some of our acquisition funds in something like a PDA and covering a range of materials which Viva's never going to get to because they've got to cover a lot. And we got the money from the legislature because we use those magic words, STEM-H. And all you had to do is say STEM-H the last few years, and they were handing out money. And that's why we got the money. We're going to stick to the rule. But it does give us a mechanism, an environment where we could really, really rethink how we do acquisition. But think of the impact of that. Don't catalog it. If we can buy it once the system, that means somebody doesn't have to sit somewhere and say, we'll pick this one or that one. So I think there's some real gains for us in this whole thing. Okay, that answer?
Once we have the annual collection, And how do we read it? Will it have
Pilot part 2.
I'm not asking.
I don't know. Well, this is going to be a Viva level collection, so I don't think it will fall just to us to read that. But yeah, this is a multi-part pilot project.
Sorry, her question was, how do we read the collection when it's a shared collection? And that's a very important question, because one of the things the Viva Steering Committee has been doing for the last 2 years is we've had the steering committee has retreated. That's a bad phrase. Shouldn't we say we attacked or something? We would go away. And one of the things we've been talking about, and I invite you to look at the Orbit Cascade group out in Washington, Oregon area, what they're doing. One of the discussions the Viva Task Group has been the steering committee has been looking at, how are we going to look at the whole idea of cooperative collection development? How is Viva going to work this through? Because that comes up, very important. If we've got a nursing title in there, for instance, and you know how nurses feel about out-of-date material, right? They'll want to lynch you if you've got it. So that's the type of thing Viva as a whole is going to have to look at. And that's one of the questions the steering committee is asking. In the area of collection development, as is with other areas, what should Viva be doing as a consortium in this area, instead of the way we've done it traditionally, is everybody in its little silo? So you're right, Linda, that's a very important.
Is that something that VCCS is going to be looking at in the future? Because there are things that we've purchased outside of Viva that are in the collection now, ebook-wise, that, especially like in terms of technology books and stuff, that perhaps could go. And I was just wondering if that was something that VCCS going forward would also consider.
Well, we started to work on a group like that about 3 years ago, 3 years ago, and I put it on hold because the Viva project is coming on. And I think once we get through get a chance to look at this demand-driven thing a bit, I'd like to see that group reinstituted. And the intent of that group is to try to start tackle this problem of cooperative collection development. Susan, you were on that. I can't remember who else. It's been too long. There is a link on the link site. So that's where we started the discussion. But I said back off until we see how this goes.
I have several questions about QuickSearch. My first question is, am I to understand that QuickSearch is already up and running at all of our colleges, or do some of our colleges still have some groundwork to do like you did at John Tyler before it's launched? That's my first question. My second question is, where it is up and running, how does the faculty member sitting in their office access it? And then the third question I have is, why not just include all major research databases of a typical research university? Is there a cost associated with that, or is it because it would slow down the search too much? Or I just wondered.
I'll work backward. Your third question, yes, there's tremendous cost associated with things that, resources that institutions like VCU or even major research institutions have that we don't, whether on our own or through Viva. But yes, there'll be tremendous price tags, unfortunately. But more and more, there are openly available, what the publishers are calling open access content available as well. So we've got some of that integrated with our subscription resources. So there's a mix of free and subscribed resources in the QuickSearch database. So you're going to get a mix. But yes, right now it is limited. It's one provider. All the players in that industry are not going to play nice. So we're missing, I would say we're missing probably 3 key resources from what is included in QuickSearch today. But that's going to change. It's just going to take time. You also asked about access. I know, I think roughly 7 or so of the colleges have chosen to adopt QuickSearch and get to know it and start promoting it, and that's fine. They've included it on their library homepages. Also within the student portal, there's a library services link that can be directed to go to your college's instance of QuickSearch. A lot of libraries are also starting to put together lib guides or research guides. You can also link from there to come into the QuickSearch environment. So the faculty member in their office hopefully would be able to get to their library portal or the My VCCS, My Tyler portal and go through that link. So lots of ways to get there. You asked another question and I can't recall what it was. So thank you.
Can I just add another comment on the database access? It really is important to understand that not all the publishers and things are playing nice in this world. And there's some built-in conflicts of interest for publishers to be involved and not involved, and that's going to take a while to work out. I'm on an advisory committee for one publisher, and I noticed I was going to, in fact, I'm leaving after this to go to a meeting with that group, and I noticed now for the last 3 years, every year we've had a panel discussion. One of the discussion topics is, should we continue to include our content in these discoveries? Because they're worried that they're going to lose revenue because part of their income is based on the indexing and abstracting services they provide, whereas this replaces that for certain. So that we've got to overcome that reluctance. Some components of the publishing industry don't want to release it. That makes it tough. We mentioned a couple of times some of the search, in some search cases it's a little slow. That's because we're trying to do an end run around those cases by using another method. We are being successful in some cases.
Driven acquisition pilot. Do we have access to for the faculty to use those for course packs? It's as same as we do with the purchases, and how would that work?
That question has not been answered yet.
Okay.
Because we do not have the publisher list and content.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll let us know.
More to come.
Okay.
Good question. And quickly, I forgot to mention EBL, eBook Library, gave us some sticky notes and some pens, and you've also got the Cyverse, a print copy of the Cyverse quick reference guide here on both sides of the room. Please take those with you as you leave.
Keep in mind on this demand-driven, one of the most significant efforts that the EBL as our vendor is doing for us is they handle all the negotiations with the individual publishers. Okay. So you can imagine as they go to each publisher, each one of them has a different criteria to what they are prepared to release and the conditions of those releases. And that's what EBL's biggest, that's what they get paid to do, is to negotiate these contracts with the publishers for us. Okay. And we won't know all the details until that's bigger. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.